One of the problems was figuring out how the Sherman turret could be fitted with a more powerful gun.
After units received the new tanks, the greatly improved ride over the earlier models earned the nickname Easy 8.
Some Shermans were fitted with a 76mm gun, such as the M4A3 Easy 8.
The Sherman earned the nickname Easy 8, and was armed with a 76mm main gun.
Video is getting a lot longer than I originally thought it would be, and I've had to cut out a lot of stuff, including an entire segment talking about the 76mm variant of the Sherman and explaining exactly what makes a Sherman an Easy 8, but I figure I'll probably just turn those into their own videos.
Many websites say it was because this tank was powered by a V8 engine. This is wrong.
Kinda. The Jumbo Sherman was just an Easy 8 that had more armor. Is the Easy 8 crap or am I crap?
Super 8
Sherman
hotels,
Chevrolet.
hotel room.
Yup, it's an Easy 8. You can tell by the HVSS suspension and the longer 76mm gun.
I am fuming.
Mega fucking fuming!
In all the years I've followed tank history, never have I been more stumped by something that should be so obvious than I am by the mystery of the Easy 8 Sherman. I mean, how can something as simple as the nickname of one of the most famous tanks ever built be the cause of so much confusion? It seems like everywhere I look there are conflicting stories. Everyone seems to have a different reason as to how the nickname started or what it refers to. Now, trust me, plenty of them can be proven wrong, but some of them can't. So, I've finally decided to sit down and figure out once and for all, what is an Easy 8 Sherman? Where did the nickname even come from? What does it refer to, and how could it possibly have become so terribly misconstrued over the years? Firstly, I'd like to say it feels good to be back in the saddle. I was trying for a while to keep up with weekly uploads, but then I took a week-long beach vacation, and upon my return, I immediately moved out of my parents' house and now operate out of my own apartment. So needless to say, I've been a busy bee recently. But with all that aside, we have a mystery to solve. So, without further ado, let's just jump right into this. The Easy 8 nickname seems to have 1,000 origins. Everywhere I've looked, I've heard a different wacky or bizarre explanation as to how it came to be. So, to kick this all off, I just want to go through some of the biggest ones that I've found and explain why they're all wrong. Myth number 1. It came from the engine. The M4A3 was nicknamed the Easy 8 because of its Ford GAA V8 gasoline engine. Therefore, the nickname applies to any M4A3 Sherman. I picked this myth first because it's by far the stupidest and by far the most easily disproved. Firstly, not every M4A3 Sherman was nicknamed Easy 8, so already the theory can be proven wrong. Secondly, there is zero evidence anywhere that could possibly lead to a conclusion that people gave the nickname to the Sherman simply based on its engine. If anyone wanted to specify a Sherman with the Ford V8, they would have just called for an M4A3. This myth is pretty perplexing to me because I have no idea where it came from, and it has literally zero evidence backing it up. Not to throw shade, but if you genuinely believe this one, you seriously need to take another look at your sources. Myth number 2. It came from the 76mm gun upgrade. The 76mm gun was so good at killing tigers and panthers that the crews remarked how much easier it made facing them. Therefore, any Sherman with a 76mm cannon was an Easy 8. Now, funny enough, this is actually one I used to subscribe to back in my earliest days of tankery. Except even back then, I had no idea why it was an easy 8. I thought I knew where the easy came from, but why the number 8? I know, I'm not proud of it, but hey, we all have to start somewhere, alright? This myth is not true for one simple reason. The program for the 76mm cannon upgrade was designated the E6 program. There is no concrete evidence that ties the nickname to the cannon, and nobody from the time it happened ever referred to it as an Easy 8, or anything close to it.
Lastly, not everything with a 76mm is an Easy 8. For whatever reason, you see a 76mm, you see horizontal suspension system, it's an Easy 8. True, the horizontal suspension system is the Easy 8 program. The 76mm is the Easy 6. But you never hear it called an Easy 6 for reasons completely unknown.
Myth number 3. It is the nickname given to the M4A3 76W HVSS Sherman specifically. This is by far the most popular one, and it's mostly because it's pretty easy to believe, as there is a lot of evidence to support it and technically none to disprove it. Sources all over the World Wide Web refer to this model as an Easy 8, and games like War Thunder are especially misleading since the only Shermans in the whole game to feature HVSS suspension are M4A3s. Now, why do I harp on the suspension? Well, we'll get to that in a second, but the suspension is the key here. We've already disproved the gun as the source, but this myth is slightly harder to debunk. We're kind of caught in a square is a rectangle, but rectangle isn't a square type of situation here. Yes, every M4A3 76W HVSS Sherman is technically an Easy 8, but not every Easy 8 is an A376 with HVSS. We're really diving into a gray area here that will be explained by the end of this video, I promise. But for now, you just have to take my word. And myth number 4. It came from the E8 test program involving the new HVSS suspension system. Specifically, the nickname originated from the crews involved in testing, who remarked the ride provided by the new suspension was so smooth and easy. This is by far the closest theory, but it too is actually wrong, if only slightly. We're finally looking in the right place though. The Easy 8 nickname did come from the HVSS test program, designated the E8 program. However, it was not the smooth ride of the suspension that earned it the nickname. I'm afraid the real answer is a little more, well, boring than you're probably prepared to hear. The Easy 8 nickname comes from the E8 designation of the program. The military phonetic alphabet at the time had the code word for the letter E as easy. So if you were to describe the HVSS test program in military terms at the time, it was quite literally the Easy 8 program. This applies to every test designation the US military ever used. The 76mm upgrade, that's the Easy 6. The Super Pershing, that's the Easy 4. The medium tank T1E1, not this one, that's the Easy 1. As much as I really wish I could provide a bit more of a bang to the answer to this question, I'm afraid the truth is just far simpler than we seem to have made it out to be. But this doesn't leave me quite satisfied. I still have so many questions. Firstly, if the Easy 8 nickname only came from HVSS testing projects, then how did it become so widely associated with a specific variant of the Sherman? Why did the E8 testing designation stick around? What vehicles are actually capable of holding the E8 name? And what is the true origin of HVSS? These questions are the real meat and potatoes of this video, so hold on to your butts, because it's about to get crazy. The time I've spent doing the research for this video has led me on quite the wild goose chase, and I've made a lot of discoveries. But of course, we need to start from, well, the start. I first wanted to figure out where exactly the nickname originated, and what model, or models, of Sherman it actually applied to. I've heard people say that the Easy 8 applies to any tank with HVSS suspension. On Reddit. Look, Reddit is a great place to find a lot of information, and some of it is to be trusted. But be careful where you tread. It's just as easy to stumble upon the one guy who knows the truth as it is to find just another kook. And just to make sure you all know how seriously I took this topic, I took 2 L's on Reddit during the making of this video. Not 1, but 2. This guy was more or less the catalyst for my deep dive into HVSS. After all, he put me in the dirt with facts and logic. So, not every tank with HVSS is an Easy 8? It's just the prototype? That makes sense, but I couldn't just take his word. So I did my own research, and after a bit of my own digging, I found that my be-all and all source on the front page of the internet was being contradicted on almost every major website I could find. But is this a case of him knowing more than the average historian? Or am I taking the word of a complete fool? I had to find out for myself. And so my descent into madness began. Who was right? What is an EZ8 Sherman. Now unfortunately, I was quick to discover this wasn't going to be as easy as just googling HVSS suspension. Of course, there are plenty of fantastic sources on the subject, but none of them had what I was looking for, even my own tried and tested sources like the Chieftain and Tank archives. So I started getting a little more creative. I should be able to kill two birds with one stone if I go as deep as you can, the archives. I was on the prowl for original field documentation on the E8 program, original statements from AGF and the US military themselves preserved in the National Archives. This was by far going to be the farthest I had dove into any research for any video yet, but I was ready. I was going to figure out exactly when the EZ8 program started and how the EZ8 nickname came to be. But how do you get to the archives? What are they even called? I've already searched tank archives, but this isn't exactly what I was looking for. Even though it is a fantastic source on Soviet tankery, I needed to look elsewhere. But just before I could really begin my search, I doubled back on the Chieftain, just to make sure I didn't miss anything, and stumbled across this.
Back in Tankland, the M6. Various different transmissions, there was a hydraulic, there was an electric, and so on. But it did use a horizontal volute suspension system. You can't see it, but it is HVSS.
Oh boy. The M6A1 had HVSS? That means that HVSS suspension has not only existed, but has been in use on production tanks since as early as 1940. This changes everything. What if the EZ8 nickname dates farther back than we ever knew? Was this true? I'd never heard anything about the M6's suspension system until now, and he threw it out so casually. Was this supposed to be common knowledge? So of course, I took to Google. And it took a considerable amount of digging. Pretty much no YouTube video I could find, no website, no article had any mention of suspension. Until... aha! Wait, so he's wrong? The Chieftain was wrong? There's no way. But there's nothing else on the subject. I've looked everywhere. Who's right? The only way I was going to know for sure was to search the archives. Thankfully, I managed to find this post on the War Thunder forums. Boom! In one little line of text, my saving grace. It was now 2 against 1, and I was beginning to suspect the Tank Encyclopedia was the false prophet here. Now I just needed to find this guy's sources. And what would you know? The archives. All I had to do was click this link, and this nightmare would be over. I would finally have my HVSS origin story that I could trace all the way back to the Sherman and the EZ8 program. I'd have my story, and I'd have my answer. I just needed to open this link. Oh, come on! Unavailable? Paper only? But I'm so close to have it all ripped away here at the finish line. I wouldn't stand for it. So, there was only one thing to do. The Maryland archives, huh? Looks like I'm driving to Maryland. No, I couldn't just drive to Maryland, but I wasn't ready to call it quits. I needed another plan. Thankfully, I just so happened to be browsing the comments of my Sherman video when... a fellow Sherman connoisseur. He sounds like he knows his stuff. Maybe he can tell me about HVSS. So, I joined his Discord and waited for his response. In the meantime, I kept at it on my own. I was now hell-bent on the archives. If I couldn't get my hands on it, then I was going to find someone who had. And it wasn't long before my persistence paid off.
So today we're going to start, this is volume 1 of the Firepower Archives. So that's pretty much what we're looking at right now. We're actually looking at essentially the original manuscript for Firepower. I wonder, does it mention... It doesn't say how many crew, though I believe it would have been... fairly standard.
Bingo! Did you see that? Right here, shown for all of 2 seconds. Horizontal volute spring suspension. From the archives themselves. It's confirmed. I was right. Or, well, I guess the chieftain was right, but I didn't have too much time to revel in my victory, though. I had a meeting to attend. Hello!
Hey, how we doing?
Hey, I'm doing good, my friend. How about you?
Doing good. Just came back from a 5-hour road trip.
Oh my.
Yeah, I went fishing with my girlfriend and shit.
Oh, nice. For those of you who don't know this guy, this is Nomad Prod. He made this video, as well as plenty others. He's a really cool dude, and a shoreman connoisseur of the highest caliber. If I was going to get my answer from anybody, it was going to be him.
So yeah, I'm not like an expert or anything, I just know the Sherman a lot. I'm actually gonna go grab something. I'll be right back.
Okay. Burger. Ow.
I am back.
Welcome back.
I bring back a book that I have called M4 Sherman Tanks, the illustrated history of America's most iconic fighting vehicle.
So I'm just trying to get to the bottom of the E8 mystery, right? Yeah, I'm trying to go as far back as I can with the origins of the nickname.
I believe it's pretty simple. It's just that, you know, alpha, beta, and everything, and you come to easy, it just becomes easy 8, and people perhaps they just stayed.
Yeah, well, I wonder, and because with every other variant of the Sherman you had, like, you know, the 76mm upgrade program was designated E6. Then once it was done, they dropped the E6 and it was just 76W. 76. With E8, it was E8, but then once the program was done, they dropped it and just put HVSS. And so you have, you have reports of generals on the field who said, we want E8 Shermans, we want Shermans with the E8 suspension. Well, and so I wonder at what point, how did a general in the field continue calling a Sherman by its testing nickname?
Well, I believe it's just that those generals were part really of the Armored Corps and probably were closely related to the Ordnance Corps, and if the Ordnance Corps calls it an Easy 8, they'll probably just call it an Easy 8 too. I'll try to find a chapter on the HVSS.
So then this is what led me to go as far back into HVSS, and then this is where I went on that trail to find the M4A6 with, or excuse me, the M6A1, excuse me, with HVSS, and then that made me think of how far back does this go. It doesn't look like it. Like if you look for a picture of M6A1, it doesn't look like it has HVSS. But because it's always covered, the suspension's got the the cover on it.
These are VVSS, surely.
They look like it, but because it's got those little things that attach to the road wheels, which HVSS doesn't. But if you look at the track width, it almost certainly has to be two sets, right?
I believe that's because it's a double set of VVSS. Look at this. Yeah, double set of VVS.
It does look like it.
Perhaps. If I can find a scale model. I know scale models are not to be taken 100% accurately, but they can give you a really nice view on the vehicle you're looking for.
And I want to try looking
might
up.
Actually be right.
I want to try looking up at the actual archives in Maryland out here, but what do you got?
Oh, you are right. It is HVSS.
Yeah? Oh, for a scale model.
So, yeah, but if scale model companies actually need to see the vehicle to make it.
Yeah.
And look at this. Oh my God, you are. Oh, I think wasn't the T20 made like this? The T20 has HVSS.
Oh yeah, but they just put the casing on it. And I was first tipped off because I was watching that Chieftain video, and he's talking about the Sherman, but he briefly brings up the M6A1, and then he says, "Oh yeah, by the way, there's HVSS under there," and then he just keeps going. And I was like, wait, I had to rewatch it 6 times. I was like, wait.
Hold up.
The 6A1 has HVSS, and so that means as early as 1940.
I get a drink. I'm super thirsty right now.
Yeah, go for it. I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna look in my notes for my Christie suspension video and see if I can't go find those patents that I had for the VVSS, and then see if maybe I can track HVSS in there too. Scroll. The Firefly. I'd love to remaster this video. Looking back, this video my voice in this video was so shit. I want to go back and I want to re-record this video. I want to remaster it so badly. Oh yeah, this was the whole segment I cut out talking about the 76mm variants. I literally had an entire section talking about them. And yeah, the difference between the M4A2 and the M4A3 with HVSS. Jesus Christ. Wait, no, it wouldn't be here. It would be Christie's suspension. I'm so dumb. Here we go. Forgotten Legacy of Harry Knox. And he did VVSS. Early VVSV. Here we go! This is it. Yeah, and it looks just like it does in the... Oh, but the date is wrong. This is 43, and by Harry Knox. But it was filed... Okay, filed March 27th of 42.
Alright. I am back.
Okay, I've pulled out my... You mind if I share my screen at this point?
Yeah. I'll just send you a picture of... In some of the production tanks with the horizontal volute suspension system, HVSS. Those M4A3s equipped with HVSS were designated E8 and nicknamed Easy 8 because of the tank's relatively smooth ride.
So that's false.
I believe, I don't know if it's true, but like perhaps comes from multiple places.
Yeah, well, you see, and that's why I want to make a video about it. This seems to have like no. I watched a video by a guy named Lemino. And he did a video talking about like myths and stuff, and he tried to get to the bottom of the myth that the average person swallows like 6 spiders every year or something like that in their sleep.
Yeah.
And he looked as far as he could for the origin of the myth, and every single website and everything he found like said, well, it originates from this book of like interesting facts written by this person. And he went as far as he could into it, and he found that the book did not exist. That author had never written that book. He couldn't find it anywhere. And so he came back and his conclusion was, I don't know where it came from because the source that everybody seems to refer to literally doesn't exist. And so I don't think HVSS, I don't think this is going to be that dramatic. But I would like to share, I have a really awesome source that I found. And that does look like HVSS from what we know it. However, this was filed in 42, so it's a little bit earlier.
So
that
looks like the ones on the T20 and M6.
Yes, but then if we can dive a bit further back, suspension for vehicles 1939. I don't know. That might be vertical, but I'm not sure.
Where's the spring?
Exactly, that's what I'm wondering. And so we have all this stuff for HVSS 43 and after. But even then, I mean, the HVSS was on the Sherman in 42. So even then, HVSS is not... The timelines just doesn't quite add up.
You know what you could actually do? You could just try to go, sorry for the expression, balls deep, message the chieftain on Facebook and ask him. He actually has responded to multiple of my questions.
Oh, really?
Just try Facebook.
I don't even have a Facebook account.
I can ask him for you if you want.
If you wouldn't mind, that would be awesome.
I'll just copy paste.
Yeah. Hey, chieftain. Fellow tank enthusiast here. I have recently discovered HVSS suspension was on the M6A1 and patents for the suspension may have been, released as early as 1937. Is this true?
As he even Chieftain HVSS.
I'll say that.
Oh, I think I got something actually.
Oh?
On one of his Q&As.
Here we go. What is the difference between it with HVSS and the M4A3E8?
Every now and then I'll take a what is the difference between an M4A376 with HVSS and an M4A3E8? Excellent question, and thank you for asking, as this is the sort of thing which annoys the hell out of me. If you are one of those who uses the two terms interchangeably, yes, you are wrong. But on the other hand, you are also in good company. There are plenty of documents from end users in the field who use the term interchangeably as well. It doesn't make them any more correct, but it is a significant cause of much of the problem. Now here's the problem. This is an Easy 8. So are these. Here's an Easy 6. So it's time for a nomenclature.
Note early HVSS. Okay, look at this right here.
Holy shit!
Early HVSS.
There seems to have been very little rationality behind the assignment of the E numbers. On the other hand, when the M4E8 designation was selected for a new type of suspension system, someone decided that E8 may as well be the experimental version of every variant with this new suspension. So here's the most important bit. The E8 refers only to the suspension system, nothing else. Not the hull shape, not the gun, not anything else, only the running gear with a HVSS twin wheel pair bogies and a center guide track. Since under 1,000 M4A3s were built with a 75mm gun and HVSS, the default for a HVSS medium tank was with a 76mm, and so nobody normally felt the need to specify it. If they specified the suspension, it was basically enough. M4A376 with HVSS is the correct name as it specifies all the relevant features: type of tank, type of engine, type of gun, and type of suspension. M4A3E8 was the name of the experimental variant, which was good enough for most purposes, and so was used in the field.
So, that's it. The answer I was so desperately searching for was among one of my original sources the entire time. I just wasn't looking in the right place. So, what does this mean for the EZ8? Well, I'm certainly comfortable calling that a stopping point for my research. But how does this answer our question? What is an EZ8 Sherman? Well, considering all we've seen, I think to truly get the answer, we have to rephrase the question. We shouldn't be asking, what is an EZ8 Sherman? But more specifically, what is the EZ8 Sherman? The United States applied these E nomenclatures to all their test variants of tanks, but once a tank goes into production, the E is usually dropped. The Jumbo is an exception though, because fuck my life. So the only Sherman that can truly hold the EZ8 nickname is the original Sherman that took part in the E8 program. After HVSS was put on production model Shermans, the E8 was dropped. Thus, technically speaking, none of them are EZ8s. Nobody was right. None of the Shermans we have claimed to be EZ8s are EZ8s at all. I'm sorry, but that's what the research tells us. But I can already see where this is going. The amount of actuallys this video will spawn could mean the end of the r/tank porn subreddit. Thread after thread about how everyone is wrong and technically there's only one Sherman that was the EZ8, so it's incorrect to call any other Sherman by that nickname. I can't just sit back and let that happen. So, I'll cut you all a deal. Even though, by the documentation and official conventions of the United States military, there is only one or two EZ8 Shermans. However, even though the E8 designation was dropped, generals on the field continued to call for EZ8s. And even in the years closely following World War II, the E8 nomenclature was used. For example, when Shermans were received by the Israelis in the late 40s, even though that is also technically wrong. But, as I said before, the Jumbo held on to its E2 designation once it went into production, so it's not crazy to think of a world in which HVSS Shermans kept their E8. I think this is an ambiguous situation. Pop culture is too far gone. We can continue to debunk the obvious myths, but at the end of the day, I think it's more than appropriate to say that any Sherman with HVSS could hold the EZ8 nickname, even though, technically, they can't. I hope this is an agreement we can all come to. After all, the chieftain seems to have already come to this conclusion himself. If there really is one takeaway I want you all to have from this video, it's to check your sources. I've run into these kinds of situations plenty of times, but this topic specifically is clouded in false narrative. Nobody is innocent. Highly regarded websites, well-respected content creators, and even Hollywood productions consistently get things wrong. Your favorite YouTuber, your favorite historian, and your favorite movie are wrong about something or another. Of course, we already know this, but it's easy to forget. More often than not, we consume this information without even realizing it. So much is said, and so rarely do people provide anything to back it up with. Now, I'm not saying to stop watching your favorite YouTubers or your favorite movies. They all have value. I don't want anyone to think I have any problems with these channels, but where my point lies is in the people who only listen to these channels. Potential History is an amazing channel. Military history visualized, armchair historian oversimplified, etc. They're all great, but don't take their words solely. If you find a topic interesting, watch all the videos on it. Read all the articles, browse all the threads, and come to a conclusion that suits you the best. I try to put all my sources in the descriptions of my videos, so even if I get something wrong, you can all check my sources and see where I messed up. If I come across with biases, at least you know where I get it from. I'm not perfect either. I already have quite a few nitpicks with my tank documentary videos, and I've only made like 3. I only got as far as I did with this video because I questioned everything. I was never satisfied with any single answer, so I double checked, I cross-referenced, and found that a lot of what I was finding simply wasn't true. And I encourage all of you to do the same. Ironically, I said this best in my documentary video about the tiger, which I highly encourage none of you to check out because quite frankly that video is a stain on my record as far as I'm concerned. But there was one good thing said out of it. Like most of the data surrounding tanks and their history, a lot of it is exaggerated. A lot of it is fake, and most of it isn't even there. So it's up to us to interpret and come to our own conclusions. It's the natural curiosity that should keep us going. That desire to dive as deep as you can into a subject and get totally lost in its beautiful complexity. Humans are curious creatures, so use that to your advantage. To any of you out there who do historical research or are interested in the subject, a simple Google is never enough. History is insanely complex, and 9 times out of 10, it is extremely simplified for ease of consumption. Once again, I'm no exception. Original sources can be biased, and the game of telephone we call research only exemplifies this. Nobody is going to be 100% right, because at the end of the day, none of us were there. We all see history differently, but that's what makes it so fun. We can all come together and talk about these topics. What did you find that I didn't? How do you see a topic, and how can I learn from your perspective? Getting involved in discussion and sharing passions is always a rewarding experience if you know what to take away from it. So, stay curious. Question everything. Do your homework, and eat your vegetables. My name is Edda320. Thank you for watching.
Baby, you know I'm guilty. Cops, judge, and jury, they all agree. If love's the crime,